Stranger Things is a secret Dungeons & Dragons campaign. The Duffer Brothers, the creators of the show, are the dungeon masters, the kids are the players, and the show itself, well, that's the campaign. Let's roll for knowledge. Hey there, Ron here from Dungeon Noob, and I rewatched all 4 seasons to get ready for Season 5 that's releasing on Netflix on November 26th. And I discovered something pretty cool, actually. The show isn't just inspired by Dungeons & Dragons, it is D&D. So let me prove it to you by detailing the most essential Easter eggs and what they mean. So we begin in Mike's basement. The kids are deep into a D&D session. Dice are clattering, snacks are everywhere, and if you play D&D, this looks really familiar to you. Will Byers faces the Demogorgon and needs a 13 or higher to cast Fireball and hit it. So in D&D for the Fireball spell, the monster usually rolls to essentially dodge the spell, but the idea is the same. One roll deciding everything. He fails, and that single bad roll becomes a metaphor for the whole season. Minutes later, he disappears for real. The group scrambles to explain what took Will. When 11 later points to the Demogorgon miniature on their table, well, the boys grab the only language they have, the game, D&D. They name the creature after the monster they were just fighting. So in the actual D&D monster manual from the 1980s, the Demogorgon is an 18-foot, two-headed demon with tentacles. The show's version looks nothing like it. But that's exactly the point. It's not a literal match. It's a nickname. A way for terrified kids to label something they just can't comprehend. That moment sets the tone for the entire series, using D&D to make sense of fear. Now, as the search for Will deepens, Dustin reads about something called the Veil of Shadows. He says it's a dark reflection of our world, a realm where decay and death bleed through the walls of reality. Now, here's the thing. That plane doesn't actually exist in official Dungeons & Dragons lore. It's close, but we'll get to that. The Duffers made it up. In terms of D&D, that's called homebrewing, when a dungeon master invents their own rules, monsters, or worlds to make the story more personal. So the Duffers didn't just adapt D&D, they built their own plane inside it, the Veil of Shadows, which mirrors the real D&D version called the Plane of Shadows. So by the finale, the boys are back at the table, and this time the monster they face is a Thistle Hydra, a serpent-bodied, 8-headed beast straight out of D&D lore. In fact, it comes out of, well, it's in this book right here. But the Dungeon Masters, the Duffers, well, they're ready for the follow-up campaign because Will coughs up a slug. And let me tell you, this isn't some random gross-out moment. It's a setup for the next campaign, Season 2. And D&D players likely know what the Duffers are already hinting at for the next monster. So Season 2 picks up right there. The party's really leveled up, and now they're not just naming monsters, they're using D&D rules to diagnose them. Here's what I mean. The new threat is the Mind Flayer, named for its behavior, not its look. In D&D, Mind Flayers are psychic monsters with octopus-like faces that use their mental powers to dominate and enslave other creatures. And most, if not all, Mind Flayers serve a collective intelligence called the Elder Brain, literally a giant brain that commands its minions. The show's shadow creature acts exactly like that, invading minds and linking them together under one will. Oh, and remember that slug I talked about from Season 1 that Will coughed up? Well, turns out that wasn't just gross, it was accurate. In D&D, Mind Flayers produce through seromorphosis. What they do is Mind Flayers implant a tiny tadpole into the host's skull. It burrows in and rewires the brain and slowly transforms the person into one of them, a new Mind Flayer. So that tadpole that Will coughed up was foreshadowing what monster was to come in Season 2, the Mind Flayer. Now here's one of my favorite parts of the entire series. Mike takes charge like a true DM, assigning everyone their roles in the real world. Not in D&D, but the real world. Mike's the paladin, the moral leader. Lucas is the ranger, the one who scouts and keeps watch. Dustin is the bard, the one who's quick-talking and endlessly curious. And 11 is the mage, for obvious reasons. And Will? Well, he's the cleric. You see, a cleric's strength comes from a higher power, like the god they worship. Only this time, that power is the enemy. The Mind Flayer has become his dark god. So are you a ranger like Lucas, or a bard like Dustin? Well, I created a short, fun, fast quiz that will tell you your real-life D&D class. I'll send the results and a complete personality assessment based on your class right into your inbox. The link is in the description below, and now back to the breakdown. So Will begins getting visions of the Upside Down, and they intensify. Mike calls it True Sight. Well, in D&D, the spell is actually called True Seeing. It's a spell that lets you pierce illusions, see things that aren't quite obvious, and even glimpse into other planes. But here's the cool part. The Duffers actually flipped it and kind of homebrewed it. For Will, seeing the upside down may have some advantages, but there's a big downside. The creature can see him too. It's a great DM move. Turn the hero's advantage into the villain's window. Alright, we arrive at Season 3, where imagination and reality really begin to merge. And the monsters aren't confined to the game anymore, or even the Upside Down. They're under a shopping mall, which we'll get to in a second. We see Will try to rally his friends for a day without girls to play D&D. But Mike and Lucas are way too distracted by girlfriends and basically growing up. And when they blow him off and even make fun of him, he breaks down in frustration, realizing that the magic is gone, not just for the game itself, but perhaps even their friendship. And honestly, this scene really stung me. I was Lucas and Mike as a teen. I really was. I thought I was too cool for D&D. Now looking back after 40 years being away and just getting back into it, I think about how stupid that actually was. Anyway, later in one of the most quietly devastating scenes of the series, Will returns to Castle Byers, the fort that once protected him, and he tears it apart in the rain. In that scene, the camera cuts to a dragon magazine. That's a real Dungeons & Dragons publication from the 1980s. I had a bunch of them. It's not just a prop, though. It's a message. Will isn't just destroying a fort. He's burying the last physical piece of his imagination, his childhood, and the world that literally helped him survive back in Season 1. Now, while that's going on, meanwhile, Dustin, Steve, Robin, and Erica stumble onto what I think is a metaphor for an actual dungeon, the Russian base beneath Starcourt Mall. Guards are the monsters, locked doors act as traps, Erica takes on the rogue's role, crawling through vents to solve puzzles, and at the end, waits the gate, their final boss room. They're literally living out a D&D module in a dungeon crawl. Okay, by the finale of Season 3, the group scatters. Some move away, some outgrow the game. The campaign that once defined their lives quietly ends. The monster of the season isn't just the Mind Flayer, it's change and loss, and dare I say, growing up. Okay, Season 4 cranks everything up to a really epic level. The kids are older, the stakes are higher, and the rules of their world and the game, well, they start to break down. The season opens with the Hellfire Club, a new D&D group led by Eddie Munson, the metalhead dungeon master running a campaign called Cult of Vecna. So Mike, Dustin, and newcomer Erica take on the adventure while Lucas misses out for a basketball championship. And when you watch this, it's a really clever crosscut that mirrors two kinds of victory, rolling a dice and getting that natural 20 and chasing real-world goals. Now, during the session, Eddie reveals Vecna isn't dead, shocking his players just like the real Vecna shocks Hawkins later in the story. Now, Eddie's campaign even drops some deep lore that longtime players will recognize. When Eddie presents Vecna on the game table, Mike name drops Cass the Bloody-Handed, Vecna's right-hand lieutenant in D&D, who famously betrays him and ultimately destroys Vecna, leaving only his left hand and his eye. Meanwhile, the real-world parallels start to close in because the Satanic Panic storyline explodes after Chrissy's death. Hawkins turns on the Hellfire Club, convinced the game is devil worship. Now, this actually happened in the 1980s. I clearly remember it. Talk shows, pastors and religious leaders, and the media, including 60 Minutes, claimed D&D was corrupting kids and turning them into devil worshippers. Here's the part I love. The same panic that condemned D&D in the 1980s actually made D&D more popular. The controversy boosted sales and pushed the game into mainstream awareness. And then comes the real Vecna, the boss fight of boss fights in Stranger Things. In Dungeons & Dragons, Vecna began as a mortal wizard who used forbidden magic to cheat death, transforming into an undead lich and eventually ascending into godhood. Now, the Stranger Things version of Vecna doesn't copy that story directly, but it mirrors it perfectly in spirit. Here's what I mean. Henry Creel is another mortal who pushed beyond human limits, defied death, and became something monstrous. Just like D&D's Vecna, his power comes from corruption, from mastering dark forces meant to destroy him. He's not a demon from another plane, he's a man who chose to become one. Even the emotional beats in Season 4 follow D&D mechanics. Hear me out. When Max escapes Vecna's psychic attack by listening to Running Up That Hill, she basically is making a wisdom saving throw, a roll to resist mind control. In D&D, bards can use a skill called counter charm, literally using music to protect allies from fear or domination. That song becomes her saving throw, her way of rolling a 20 with her soul instead of dice. So yeah, the Duffer Brothers aren't just showrunners and show creators, they're dungeon masters orchestrating a 4-season campaign. So what's your favorite D&D Easter egg in Stranger Things? And did I miss anything? Drop it in the comments below, and if you're ready for Season 5 like I am, hit that subscribe button.